Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Rubbin is Racing podcast with Spider and Large. Got Quigs in the studio with Spider in Chicago, Jacob behind the ones and twos, and an undisclosed missile silo. We got Moonhead also helping us out today. My name is Large, and here we go. This episode is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Body Armor has great tasting flavors like strawberry, banana, and orange mango. I got the fruit punch right in front of me with no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. We mention this all the time. We're about to have a 600-mile race, the longest one on the schedule. I guarantee a couple of these drivers are going to be reaching for Body Armor as soon as they get out to try and repair what they had broken while going an ungodly amount of time at an ungodly fast speed. In a bold new look with the same great taste, get your Body Armor today at a Walmart or a local grocery store near you. Body Armor, choose better. And NASCAR also wants to remind you before we get going, Mexico City is right around the esquina. I believe that's Spanish for corner. Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez is the crown jewel of the NASCAR Mexico Series. Tight corners, fast straights, push drivers to the limits with door-to-door battles all race long, and anything can happen where bold moves and dramatic finishes are part of the show. The fan experience is electric. Passionate crowds, nonstop energy, and a celebration of motorsports culture. Tickets are going fast, so lock yours in now at NASCAR.com and don't miss the excitement. Feel the adrenaline in Mexico City. Get your NASCAR Cup Series ticket now for edge-of-your-seat racing action. Secure your seat today at NASCAR.com. And as a added benefit, you might bump into Spider and I if you decide to get your ass down to Mexico City to watch this thing in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, that's going to be the highlight of the season for me, Spider. Just
for sure. Strong agree. I've never been to Mexico City. I love NASCAR, and what a great kind of parlay of two things. So I'm looking forward to that event. By the way, we were talking Body Armor. Large, did you see Ryan Blaney's Body Armor scheme this week for the Coke 600?
I didn't see it.
Fucking beautiful.
Is it really?
Here, I don't know if you can really see much off this that I'm showing you, but it's red, white, and blue Body Armor chill scheme. Looks really cool. Probably one of my favorite of the Body Armor schemes that they've done this year. So I'll be watching Amazon on NASCAR on Prime, drinking Body Armor this Coke 600. And I will be staying hydrated. I can't speak for the drivers, but looking forward to it. Greatest weekend in motorsports.
Greatest weekend in motorsports. We are very lucky. We had Dale and his sister on last week, and then we're following it up. We had Tony Stewart a couple of weeks ago. We're following it up this week with Jimmie Johnson. That's a fucking heater, isn't it? As far as people are concerned.
That's insane. Yeah. And I think we've got a couple irons in the fire in terms of upcoming guests that I think will be very valuable additions to the show. So we're going to try to just keep riding the high, but it's been great. We're also right on the precipice of 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're listening on the podcast app, feel free to go over to the YouTube page, subscribe. We'll have our Mexico City vlog there. Our Talladega vlog is live there now. And it would mean the world to us. So, and if you're watching on YouTube, it's free. Click that little red button.
Follow us on Facebook too.
Yeah, our Facebook has gone fucking nuclear.
Crazy, right?
I think we're up like 7,000 followers in 28 days.
I mean, we've been posting on there for forever, and it's always been our lowest thing. And our growth in the past month is 600,000%.
Hell yeah. You ever have a 6,100% stock, Large?
No, I've never found a stock that's given me that type of return, Spider.
Generation. To answer your
question. Yeah, that's
like retire, pass down the wealth type numbers.
Yeah, I never looked at the paint schemes until just now. When you mentioned it, I went on to NASCAR.com for the paint schemes. Yeah. And everyone is kind of running the red, white, and blue, which I love. There's a lot of pretty cool ones out there too. Jimmy's driving the baby blue Carvana Toyota. We got a hell of a guest coming up in Jimmie Johnson. Thank you to Dale and to his sister, Kelly Earnhardt Miller, for coming in last week to share all the stuff about the dad, kind of personal shit that they dropped on us, which, we love. And if you want to see more of it, obviously that interview is up on our YouTube page, and the Earnhardt documentary is live. It started last night on Amazon. They dropped the first 2 episodes. That's on Thursday, the 22nd. They dropped the first 2 episodes. And the following Thursday, so the next one coming up on the 29th, they'll drop the last 2 episodes. So make sure you tune into that. I think it's a very, very good documentary. We were able to see it a little bit early. No big
It's a
deal.
great interview you did, Large. If you
Thanks.
guys haven't heard the interview, go back and watch.
Yeah.
Regretfully was out of town and couldn't make it, but I think Large fucking covered all the bases and more. So
Where's
great
Spider?
conversation.
Yeah. So they invited us down to the premiere. I'm going down to Charlotte right after this. I'm going to do the red carpet walk somewhere in Charlotte for the premiere of this Earnhardt documentary. So that's it. And hopefully grab a couple of restaurants while I'm down in Charlotte as well. I think I might go by Junior Motorsports. They got a fan appreciation day.
Yeah.
By there just to see what the hell, because I got nothing to do in the afternoon on Thursday.
I think they do one of the best fan appreciations out of any of the teams.
Yeah, they got a bunch of live shows there. I know the serious guys like Danielle and Larry are coming out of that.
Yep.
The Bumper Clear guys are going to be there. So I'm going to float by that. So
that'll be awesome. Yeah, I unfortunately not going to be there either. I got a crazy week here in Chicago, just getting back from Miami, dog sitting for Pete and Peaches. And then we've got some productions going this week in the Chicago office that are kind of all hands, which you will see in the coming days. And then I'm moving this weekend. So quite a bit of stuff going on. The good news is I'm moving into a spot that will have room for racing sim. So I'm planning on being more involved in the moon car stuff, and hopefully we can get some live streaming on this YouTube page as well in the coming weeks. I know I've been saying that for a while, but it's actually like kind of more realistic now than ever. So something to watch for.
Rome wasn't built in a day. If you see me down in Charlotte, make sure you say hello. And outside of us, we have two young women who do a fishbowl, Mubi and Kelly. They're going to be down there floating around. So you may see some Barstool presence at the race on, I think they might be there either Saturday or Sunday. I don't know if they're staying for both. But either way, I believe those two young ladies are going down. Reason I know that is Catherine Legg was in the house yesterday with them. So there'll be a Catherine Legg interview coming out of Barstool that we will not have anything to do with. I made sure I parked my car a little further away. And I'm just kidding. It's a total joke. Don't come
That's crazy.
She tends to hit everything but the concession stand. But Catherine is going to be racing again this weekend, and we wish her the best of luck. What you guys think of North Wilkesboro? Fucking killed it, didn't it?
I thought it was awesome.
Very fun.
And I have a couple takes. I don't know if this one, I would like to think you guys are going to agree with me, but my takeaway from this weekend was that NASCAR is the best all-star weekend in sports. I think a lot of sports have fumbled with their all-star activations, or they just kind of mail it in, particularly the sport of the ball you're holding right now, large football.
Football's the worst.
I think NFL does an absolute joke of kind of all-star festivities. And the other ones, I did some research, not research, but I did a survey, if you will. I asked a couple of coworkers what they think is the best sport, not NASCAR fans, more traditional sports fans. And a lot of people agreed. They said NFL is far and away the worst, and the ones that they like the best are MLB as well as Four Nations from NHL. But I'm not sure that really counts, because that's more like the Olympics. That's not something that happens every year. But in terms of an event where your sport is highlighted, captured well, I think All-Star Race for NASCAR was unbelievable. You go to a track with immense history, and you kind of appease the traditional NASCAR fans. And then you're also simultaneously doing new things, like, having all these drivers, having the pit crews come out with them, kind of throwing a party around it. And obviously the $1 million has been around, but it's an incentive that actually encourages people to race hard and not mail it in like so many of these other sports do. So I think from where I sit, it's one of the best pro sports all-star weekends, and I think this weekend certainly delivered. I thought it was great top to bottom. The only thing real quick, only thing I would say that was missing, I would have loved to see Xfinity included. But I thought we had a great truck race and a great cup race, and the surrounding festivities, the fireworks, everything was kind of like what I wanted and exceeded my expectations.
You think the $1 million gets a bad rap? I know I've said it here on the show a couple of times. They haven't changed the purse at all in the last 1,000 years or whatever the hell the stat is. And I've heard it in various other, news outlets and podcasts and talking heads like us saying, they need to make it more than $1 million. Do they? I mean, $1 million still means something, doesn't it?
$1 million is still a lot.
Yeah.
But is it just not enough for this? Is that an embarrassing part? I don't know what these racers, what their financial situations are. I kind of know Denny's, because we went by his house and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know what Ryan Preece's is, so maybe that $1 million really means enough for him to grab a cone at the end of the race because he missed, the carrot painted onto the, you know what I'm saying? Is $1 million not enough, or do people make too much of the fact that it hasn't changed?
I think it's overblown, to be honest, which is crazy because the people that are complaining that $1 million are not enough are the people that would be complaining, oh, I have to get an Amazon Prime subscription and now I can't watch the race unless I pay $3 a month to see the Netflix, whatever it is. But I think it's where I judge it is based off the driver's reaction. And sure, guys like Denny might not need $1 million as bad as someone like Ryan Preece, who you mentioned, or John Hunter Nemechek. But John Hunter's a guy that when he made the All-Star Open, when he won and qualified his way in, he said on his post race after the Open, like, I'm pumped. Now I get to race for $1 million. And I mean, no disrespect to him, he probably wasn't going to win, but just the idea of potentially having a shot to win $1 million was enough to make him excited. So I think it's great. And I think, honestly, all the drivers are going to compete for that. It's not like they're going to, get off the gas or kind of mail it in if it's only a measly $1 million. I think all of them were incentivized by that. And I think that's also credit by, or proof and evidenced by the fact of this new driver incentive program. You have guys that were historically anti doing any sort of media, didn't want to do anything to promote the sport. And now when there's, dollar signs behind it and financial incentive, they're on every podcast. Who's someone needs
that was like my stomach just growled, but it was in my throat. I have a question.
Was that your stomach? You son of a bitch.
It was like my stomach growled, but it came from my throat.
We don't feed our guys.
I have something that I should probably know since I've been on a NASCAR podcast for years. So this may be a very amateur question, but what does a driver make when they win at Kansas?
The pot this week at the Coke 600 is $13 million. That's the winning pot. I don't know if it's an all or none. That should be a question I would ask Jimmy. I don't know why we haven't asked the driver before that. So put a pin in that one because I don't know. Do you know the answer to that, Moonin?
As far as I know, they quit releasing how it is distributed. They just tell what the total number is, but obviously it's not 13 million to win because
But is a driver getting more that $1 million number? I think the All-Star race, when they brag about the purse, I think it should be the biggest purse for the winner of the season.
I think the difference is that, and again, I could be wrong, I think it's kind of like the Barstool model. Whereas Penske or Team Hendrick will pay you X amount per year, and then if you bring in more sponsors or have great performance, there's incentives. So obviously, if you win races, you're getting an incentive on top of that. But I think these guys have a base salary, and that's kind of how they're paid. Obviously, if you win the Daytona 500 or a Coke 600 Crown Jewel race, the incentive is bigger. But I think you have a fixed salary, and then you get paid incentives on top of that. However, where this is different, and again, this is how I understand it, is that if you win the All-Star race, that $1 million, instead of going to the team, goes directly to the driver.
I think they still split it up, don't they?
I could be mistaken, but that's how I understand it. That's why I thought it was more, the drivers had a bigger incentive because they might not have $1 million incentive if they win, a Kansas race like you suggested.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really known about the financial side of winning in NASCAR. I've kind of just
I was on FaceTime with Noah Gregson the other day, and he was trying to tell me that he gets paid $105,000 annually. So that's clearly a cap and not true. So, I mean, I've tried to get to the bottom of this, and it just seems like $1 million question literally in NASCAR. So we're going to need someone to spell that out for us.
I think it's a better thing for NASCAR to just put out the purse for the Coca-Cola 600 is $13,651,450. That's what I'm reading right now. Yeah. That's the purse.
But that's never talked about.
Gets it. It really isn't. And I guess I come from a background where you never spoke about what you made, because on trading desks, you would want to shoot yourself in the face when you find out what a worthless manager is making. Whereas you're kind of like me. I was the macho man of the trading world for a long time. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Okay.
And I didn't make a percentage of what they did. So it was one of those things but I am very curious about what this is. We need to get to the bottom of it, I think. Do you think, staying on that one line of thought, if $1 million isn't looked upon that big anymore, perhaps, or at least to the viewing public, what if they made the purse $10 million? Does that change the All-Star race?
Oh, it changes everything.
It changes everything, right? Like, that's where I say, hey, listen, stop being a person who's like, $1 million isn't enough. But you change that. I said 10. If you change that to $5 million, $5 million the winner of the All-Star race, I guarantee you that people are going to get spun around, put into the fence,
Absolutely.
all that kind of, right? Don't you think
Joey would have been a whole lot more mad than he even was after this race?
Money changes it. Like, money would fix the NBA All-Star situation, and not like those guys in it don't need the money. But I think they did. I think if they did for the NBA All-Star game, did whatever team wins, every guy on that team gets $500,000 for the lowest paid player on their team, which would actually be like make a difference, and they would like play for those guys. I think you could solve like every All-Star game.
There's a fundamental difference, though, Quiggs, right? And Denny had mentioned it on Actions this week. The reason that he thinks that our All-Star race, I'm saying our like I'm a fucking driver, but NASCAR's All-Star race is better than others, is because the drivers don't have to worry about injuries as much as other guys.
Yeah.
They're not going to tear an ACL and miss out on the rest of their season and possibly during a contract year inside the car. They can still get hurt. I know that. And they can still wreck very expensive race cars, but they don't have that physical liability. So they can race balls out like we saw this weekend and make it an entertaining show, as opposed to, the no defense we see in the NBA or the people just not playing in the NFL, also, back Pro Bowl type shit. So I guess that's, doesn't change for the NBA. I'm going to give you a couple extra $1 million. Yeah, but it's going to hurt my ability to fucking make any money if I blow out my knee in an All-Star game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. So the money seems like it means a lot or whatever. Moonhead, you were boots on the ground. How was it in North Wilkesboro?
It was awesome. There were a bunch of people there. I didn't really know. It's hard to get a read like going into a weekend how the crowd's going to be. So I didn't know with kind of last year being a snoozer how it would be, but it was packed all weekend, even for the late model stuff, Thursday and Friday. So really cool to see all the campers. And I hope at the very least it sticks around as the All-Star race. I think it needs a points date now. Like, honestly, I'm all in favor of the All-Star race moving if Wilkesboro gets a points date, just because I think it could be the best short track on the schedule as it continues to wear.
Let's put that to a vote then. Who thinks in this group of illustrious four thinks that North Wilkesboro should be moved as the All-Star race into a regular season points playing race?
I do, but I have a couple like reservations.
Go
I think we need to keep doing the model of like either the Clash or the All-Star race, where they take a track that is kind of forgotten or neglected and bring it back, because I think, like Moonhead said, the crowd at North Wilkesboro is what made it so special. So if you can get people into a place that's nostalgic or forgotten about or revitalized, I think that means the world to traditional NASCAR fans, while seemingly keeping the interest of the new eyeballs on the sport. But I agree, North Wilkesboro deserves a points race, and I think completely it should be. I thought they did a great job, though, and I think a lot of it is because it's a historic track that's kind of been revitalized. So I would like to see that formula moving forward.
That's 2 for yes. Quiggs?
Yeah, I'd be in. I wouldn't mind if they just left it as the All-Star race, but if they are moving the All-Star race anywhere, like I think we should see racing at North Wilkesboro every year.
So then it's still a yes from you, but I'm wondering, I'm going to take the no side of this, just because why fuck up a good thing? Who gives a shit if it's points or not? I mean, they're able to handle that crowd, right? Like, I don't think North Wilkesboro can handle a crowd that, Charlotte is going to be able to handle this weekend. So if you do something where the crowd is, and North Wilkesboro, let's be honest, their grandstands are a percentage of the size of selling out a bigger track or even some of the small tracks on the schedules. North Wilkesboro doesn't have a huge facility. They put on such a good fucking all-star race. Why fuck with it? Why add a bunch more laps to where they might take some of the juice out of what we saw this weekend? Why add a full fucking, a full complement of cars, 38 cars on it, when we saw such great racing with 23 cars this weekend? You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's perfect for the All-Star race. We should just be happy with that. If you give me an All-Star weekend that looks like that, minus Michael Waltrip every year, I would be so goddamn happy. And I think that we are on the precipice of saying, oh yeah, that's so good, let's fuck around with it and turn it into an all-star, turn it into a regular season point race. I don't know.
I think
it's a fair point.
I think moving it to a points race gets rid of the mild criticism I heard of this race, which was the promoter's caution. People were not happy with that. Joey Logano alluded to that in his post-race interview. If you make it a points race, you don't have to worry about that. And I also think there's something to be said about moving. All-Star race has been at Wilkesboro for 3 years now. At some point, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep the ideas fresh. That would be my counterpoint to you saying, don't touch it. It's perfect, Large.
They can fuck with it, with the gimmicks. Like, I thought the promoter's caution sounded stupid from the time that I read it till the time that I saw Waltrip up on the stand, but it also created that ending for us. It created, Joey was out in clean air, probably could have taken that race. I know he's playing some defense. It could have been a boring end of race. What it created was a great fucking end of race, even though they did it with an extremely annoying character. I really think that Michael Waltrip fucked it up. Like, the little tweaks that they could make, and nothing too huge, would make that almost a perfect all-star race. And to your point, the bar is low. As far as other all-star races are concerned, this is already better than all of them. And if we can keep that going with tweaks that work, like have the TV timeout guy from college football. You ever had a college football game? The TV timeout guy comes and he stands stoically and everyone's like, TV timeout guy. Have that guy come out and then all of a sudden throw out the fucking flag and actually hold on to it. Put a chick with gigantic tits out there. Like, do something other than Waltrip, and I think it's a totally different story, honestly. And I don't know. I just kind of don't like fucking with something that worked, because we already go to so many tracks that don't really fucking work. And adding a points race, and as a point race, you can't take away from anybody else. And we're not going to add another race to the schedule. Take one of the races away from Bristol. Good luck. So I don't know. I loved it, and I kind of like the way that it is. Keep it. And just get rid of Waltrip. Am I wrong about Waltrip? Was that kind of just fucking weird?
I think he's hilarious. I fucking love him. I think he does. I mean, it's like his whole bit is like kind of being like a goofball, like kind of, I don't know, like him pre-race. We've seen him in years past leave his phone on the track like during the race, and like someone had to find it. This week, I don't think he had a belt on. I live for his pre-race interviews. It seems like the drivers are open to speaking to him. And I mean, sure, yeah, he dropped the flag on the track, but I thought that was funny. Like, I'd rather it be like a legend than some fucking random guy in a helmet that you don't even know. That's an official.
But when they went split screen,
okay. I was gonna say I wouldn't hate if it was just a random guy.
Oh, honestly, like check your ticket, row 14, seat A,
and they just get a big red button, and they just get to slam.
And that would be
and all of a sudden, like Cletus McFarland's stepsister comes out and fucking hits again, big tits on her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that'd be awesome.
Savannah Bananas.
It does, but that's we're allowed to have gimmicks on the All-Star race. Like, we are. So I don't know. And I don't mean to show too much hate for Michael Waltrip, but when I'm watching the race and they go split screen, and it's not because it's a necessary commercial, it's just some guy sort of hyping up the crowd with his hat on backwards and shit like that. It was confusing and stupid to me. So I don't know. Is what it is. But everyone seems to have liked the race. They have a couple of problems that happened within it. Afterwards, we had Ryan Preece go over and say that he couldn't see the spray painted arrow to choose top or bottom. So he had gotten this was in the heat race, right? No, not in the heat race, in the All-Star Open. And so that's what had him made to go to the back. He was in a position to possibly win that race, got pissed off, grabbed a cone, and was walking out to the actual track where he's going to drop it on the start-finish line. Cooler heads prevailed, and he didn't do it. Joey Logano, who is obviously competing for the win there, got passed by Chris Bell. It was aggressive racing, but I thought it was clean racing. Afterwards, Joey said, if I would have caught up to him, I would have spun him. Or, like Joey had said a couple of things. Then he dialed it back on Monday afterwards. Do you think either of those guys, I'm going to ask Jimmie about this later on too, you think either of those guys who has the most regrets coming out of North Wilkesboro? Is it Waltrip for not holding on to the fucking flag? Is it Joey Logano for shitting on Chris Bell? Or was it Ryan Preece saying he couldn't see something that every other driver was able to see? Plus there was markings on either wall outside of it on the spot where he needed to pick high or low. Who has the most regrets coming out of North Wilkesboro?
I think it's got to be Preece. That's just
I feel
elementary. You just got to go on.
Everybody else did it. Everyone else knew where to do it except for Ryan, and he thought
and it wasn't like
wrong with it.
The first time they've ever done this.
Yeah. I think that probably might be my answer also. Spider, those three guys.
I feel most bad for Ryan Preece because it's just like, I don't think it was really his fault. Like, it was evidence that you couldn't see shit.
Everybody else did it.
But even Denny, he said that he had to swerve. He couldn't see it. He had to swerve dramatically, super high, super low.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's a tough deal, and I think maybe he should have been given a break in that instance. So I don't know.
Okay. So
it's
Joey,
not
maybe?
Waltrip. Well, I think Waltrip's glad he dropped the flag.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't
think he hates the attention.
Yeah, maybe he did that on purpose.
I don't know.
I wish they would have shown him dropping it because they were cut away from it showing like fireworks in the drone shot.
I think it was more the flag slid off the pole than like.
No, he dropped the whole thing.
I
watched it.
Like,
the stick and everything. I saw the angle straight up, and you're right. They didn't show it on TV. I saw the angle straight up on social, and he just dropped the fucking flag. And it was inadvertent. It wasn't like one of those ones where he was trying to create some sort of funniness. So he just flat out dropped the flag. Moon, what do you think? Who's got more regrets on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday after the All-Star race?
I would say Preece, because even though he does have a case with it not being visible, he was just so indecisive that like I felt like it was an unnecessary move to be that indecisive. Like he was fine really wherever he chose. He was fast enough. Yeah, I feel like he probably had the most regret. Now, the Michael Waltrip thing, I don't think Michael himself has any regrets, but I'm sure like whoever's idea that was is probably regretting it. Because I was not against a promoter's caution, but him in a goofy outfit up there like hyping up the crowd and then fireworks going off when they throw a manufactured caution was a little much for me. So yeah, but I could do without seeing that again. But I think Preece is probably regretting it the most.
Scale of 1 to 10. How bad of a question was that I just asked you guys? Who has the most regrets coming out of North Wilkesboro? It's kind of middle of the road question as far as I'm concerned. Maybe 6 or 7.
I was gonna say 6.
Yeah. I called into NASCAR radio yesterday with that question. I got my ass handed to me by Dave Moody. How the fuck would I know what anyone's regret? Honest to God, Mike from New Jersey, if anyone's listening, that was me. So much so, I was like, all right. And I hung up. That's the whole deal. I was just wondering if like drivers afterwards, and sure enough, as soon as I hung up, Joey puts out a statement. What I said about Chris that's fucking regret. Right, a little bit. Ryan Preece was like, "I'm glad that somebody had stopped me from going onto the grid with that pylon." That's fucking regret. I'm not so far out of the fucking universe here. I will never call. That was the first time I ever called into any fucking radio show. I was stuck in traffic. I called in. They were like, yeah, you're up next. I'm like, how the fuck am I up next? Hey, you're on. I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? Honest to God. I asked the question, guys, like, how the fuck am I supposed to, I don't know what Dave Moody. I don't listen to that like time of day or anything. But man, he tore me a new asshole. Fuck that guy. To be honest with you,
I think you should call it every week.
Yeah, Mike from New Jersey.
We'll
that was me.
Segment on our
Rico
show.
Bosco style call-ins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What about and so the format too? They're always saying, how can we screw around with the format of the of the All-Star race? They were talking about this on the radio. I almost called in. How about this for a new format? Have them go clockwise. Like, just fucking line them up on the opposite side and have everybody fucking race clockwise for one race. Oh, blow up the fucking world, I think. I would love to do that shit. Either way. Let's move on. We got a bunch of shit that had come out this week. First of all, the Hall of Fame class was announced. Modern Era, Harry Gant, Handsome Harry, Skull Bandit car. We talked about the Skull Bandit car. We were doing our top 5 schemes of all time. Won a cup race at the age of 52. The only thing that I'd seen about that is some people are pissed off that Biff didn't win it, but Biffle's only 55. Harry Gant is still alive at 85 years old. So perhaps, Biffle will live to see himself be inducted, and now Harry Gant will as well. I'm not saying that's why voters had put in Gant over Biffle, but I think it is a happy ending to that story. Kurt Busch, who has the best resume of this year's class, I think, had gotten in there. Congratulations to him. And Ray Hendrick had gotten in on the Pioneer ballot. So that's awesome. One of the things I wanted to point out is that the Landmark Award for Outstanding Contributions to NASCAR went to a legendary promoter named Humpy Wheeler. NASCAR is so fucking awesome that
Great
a guy
name.
named Humpy Wheeler exists. I had to look because we're talking about gimmicks and shit. This guy, as a promoter, he hosted the Great American Taxi Race before the World 600, where featured 20 local taxi cab drivers going around the oval. He did something, an all-you-can-eat grandstand where fans could pay for a buffet both before and after the race, and packed them in. He tried to do a demolition derby with NFL players, and their cars were going to be painted like their helmets. And then he had a California filmmaker propose to have a working flying saucer come over a night race, not tell anybody about it, and have everybody in the stands maybe think that we were visited by fucking aliens. That's what this guy wanted to do as a promotion, but it got shot down by the FAA and the FBI. That's fucking promotions. That's Humpy Wheeler, and that's the guy who had just won the Landmark Award. So when all this stuff is going on with the Hall of Fame, give Humpy Wheeler a second look, because he's fascinating. He's got one of the greatest names I had ever saw. So congratulations to Harry, Ray, Kurt, and Humpy. Spider, we were at that Hall of Fame when we were in Charlotte. Yeah, it's in Charlotte. What you think of that Hall of Fame?
I think it's awesome. Again,
great place.
I think it's up there with some of the other Hall of Fames I've seen. I think the NBA one is kind of meh. Mm-hmm. Cooperstown is obviously really cool for baseball. I love the surrounding town that kind of buys into it, and that would probably be the only one I think that is within the same stratosphere of NASCAR. But when you walk into the main entrance of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, it's really cool display. What they have is they have all the kind of cars in chronological order from when they existed and raced on track. And then they also have progressive banking. So it starts with flat tracks and kind of shows how, the tracks actually look, which I think is awesome and really cool. And then obviously there's interactive stuff like the simulator. There's a bunch of, you can pick up the phone and hear the story about each person that's been inducted. Great display of fire suits, really, really cool stuff. And I think probably one of the better sports Hall of Fames, definitely worth an attendance. Yeah,
you guys have been to this thing? It's all, you've been there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it's one of the better ones. I agree with you 100%, Spider. We went in there. We got a little bit of a nickel tour. Can't remember the gentleman who had helped us out, but it's going to be impossible to get in there, obviously, this weekend. But if you go on a slow weekday where you can get in some of the stuff, I think it's one of the elite Hall of Fames.
Great team, great shop as well. They have shop. The shop has a lot of stuff for drivers that I really wouldn't see otherwise. Like you don't see at the track and stuff like that. So,
I lived there for 20 years, never went.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't built until.
It's relatively new, right?
Nah, not really. It's probably 10 to 15 years, maybe.
Yeah, that's still pretty new.
Probably closer to 10. But I should have. Gone by now.
I love that outside of it too. They have, instead of crosswalks, they're checkered flag like crosswalks is really sweet. Nice touch.
And you've been going to family events there since you were a little boy, Moonhead?
No, I've only been. I streamed there last year. That's the only time I'd ever been for the like iRacing stuff. But it's really, I got to walk around and it's really cool. I agree. It's not as lame as a lot of like Hall of Fames and boring. There's a lot of cool like interactive stuff. So.
Yeah, I think it's one of the better Hall of Fames, and museum-wise, World War II Museum in New Orleans is I think the best museum in the country. Connor Zilich is back after being medically cleared to return from his back injury. Connor will the number 88 JR Motorsports Chevrolet in double duty this weekend. So we're going to see that 18-year-old stud back on the track, which I'm very happy to hear about. Going from an 18-year-old stud to an old bastard, racing legend Tony Stewart moved into the NHRA top fuel points lead for the first time with his second win in 3 races on Sunday at Route 66 Raceway. That's
incredible.
What they had before the All-Star Open. I watched it.
Same.
It's not the greatest thing to watch on TV necessarily. Like, I agree. Tony had said, we got to get you guys live at the track for this to get you hooked on it. It was still very interesting, but Tony could win this goddamn thing. And he's a lot closer to that GOAT conversation that everyone has in not necessarily NASCAR, but the greatest driver of all time. You know, is it Tony Stewart? Mamba, who's everywhere, put out a tweet saying if Tony Stewart wins this thing, the NHRA championship, he will start the list of greatest drivers of all time in the entire world. He's already on the Mount Rushmore of the category for me. And then asked people to give him 5 people you'd put in front of him to knock him out. That was a tweet from Mamba. And a lot of people threw out, Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt, Juan Pablo Montoya, and a bunch of other names. But Tony can have a championship in IndyCar, NASCAR, possibly now NHRA, and a USAC Triple Crown as a driver. If this thing comes to fruition, Spider, there's no reason for his wife, first of all, to come back into that cockpit, right? I mean, he's doing this as a backup. If he wins this whole goddamn thing, is Tony Stewart the greatest natural driver of all time, even though we don't have that historical perspective?
Yeah, I don't. That's the most important thing to say here is I do not have the historical perspective or the context of a lot of these other names that were mentioned. But from where I sit, I definitely think this is a reasonable question to ask. I tend to kind of agree with Mamba. I think this would just cement himself. And we had him on the show 2 weeks ago. We talked about his laundry list of achievements across multiple different disciplines of racing. And I think this would just be another feather in his hat. And I definitely think he has a seat at the table and a spot in the conversation. I would probably say yes, but again, that's with my limited knowledge of a lot of these different disciplines and the historical significance of these names.
Yeah, this is like a death question because it's like somebody be like, you don't have Cale Yarborough. I was like, I've never seen Cale Yarborough fucking race. I would just be lying if I put him in like my top 5. But yeah, for guys in my lifetime, he'd be up there. Like maybe Lewis Hamilton, like that stretch he was on in Formula One he just won every week for 5 years.
And set the parameter on more than one vehicle. Like, again, I'm still fighting myself out of a hole saying that Joey Logano is the best Cup Series driver, right? Yeah. Spider, you gave me one, take a breath here, Large, last night, because I explained to everyone, I just mean in this car, in this system, winning 2 of 3 makes him the best of that. So we're saying greatest of all time as a driver. Like Kyle Larson, everyone is just under the impression that Kyle Larson could sit on a big wheel and be the best big wheel driver of all time with a couple of days practice. That's what I'm saying with Tony Stewart, that he might be the greatest of all time because he can drive a little red wagon and do it with, a certain degree of... Who are we missing, Moonhead? Who's the obvious choice above Tony?
Oh, man, see, it's tough because no matter what answer you give, somebody's going to be mad because there's a lot of bias that goes into that question. AJ Foyt's one that comes to mind just because he ran a lot of different things. But I'll be honest, like Tony Stewart has such a wide variety on his resume. I mean, everything from IndyCar championships to NASCAR championships, potentially now drag racing championships. He's won everything you could win in dirt, it seems. He's done off-road stuff. I think he raced a motorcycle once. Like, I mean, he's done everything. So, like, he's definitely, if he's not the guy, he's in the top 5, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I guess that's the safe way to say it. And that's the way Mamba had put it. Give me 5 people ahead of him. So I think that if he's not in the top 5, even considering your historical perspective, some guys like, what about Travis Pastrana? I saw him jump a Vespa over 30 fucking school buses. No, I get it. Like, there are people who are very good on certain things. But I think overall, Tony Stewart has got to be in the conversation. I wouldn't even bring that question up to Jimmy because there's no way that he can answer that without people coming at him. But you're right. People are going to get all Juan Pablo Montoya stands are going to be all up in my business. IndyCar, Penske fucked themselves. 2 Team Penske drivers, Newgarden and Will Power, will be moved to 32nd and 33rd, respectively, in this year's Indy 500 after their cars failed inspection with modified attenuators. As seen between 2 separate sections of the safety device on the rear were filled and smoothed over. And Joseph Newgarden's 2024 Indy 500 winning car, which is in the museum right now, has that same modified attenuator that Penske just failed tech with. This is big fucking news to have these guys. I think Newgarden was P2 or P3 before this, now being moved back to P32 to start with, and then seeing that the same thing that had him drop back is on the car he won with last year. This is a big fucking, I don't throw the word around too much. This is a scandal compared to what Joey Logano did with his glove, turning it into a catcher's mitt to catch a little drag through the fucking safety net. This is a big fucking scandal. It hurts IndyCar a little bit, and I couldn't be happier for it. But what do you think? It's good for Kyle Larson. He didn't qualify that well, and 2 of the best drivers in the field are now, decidedly behind him. But how do you guys feel about this, since you guys are such IndyCar simps going into this biggest weekend of sport?
I'm going to make it about NASCAR.
Go.
I think it's really interesting because also earlier today, Team Penske announced that they were having the departure of IndyCar team president Tim Cindric, Austin Cindric's dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means Austin's seat at Team Penske on the NASCAR Cup side is getting hotter or what that means, but it seems like heads definitely rolled following this announcement, which was pretty interesting. And I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with Austin Cindric. I like to think he'll be fine. I've been pretty content with him. The last couple of years. I mean, I think he's got to win this year. And Blaney still doesn't. I'm not saying he's better than Blaney by any means, but I'm saying he was one of the first guys to win for Team Penske for this season. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I don't know if this means that he's now on the hot seat or subject to silly season rumors, but I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say. In terms of IndyCar, I don't really have any take on that other than what you said. Larson is going to start closer to the front, which is a welcome addition from me.
I know so little about IndyCar. How is the racing in the Indy 500? Is it similar to kind of plate tracky where getting moved to the rear doesn't kill you, or is this?
I think it does.
I defer to Moonhead, but I think those guys will still have a shot, and they'll still be competitive. It wouldn't surprise me to see either of these cars up front. Does that sound right, Moonhead?
Yeah, I mean it's not as easy as going back to front at Daytona or Talladega, but it's not a day ender because it's so long and there's so much fuel strategy. And this year, the cars are not stable, it seems, so there's probably going to be a lot of cautions and chaos and stuff like that.
It says only 7 times in the history of the Indy 500 has somebody from 21st or back ever won the damn thing. But that was also baked in that without this penalty, most people who qualify past 21 are not that great at drivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a biased stat, but yeah, perhaps those guys can still perform. But again, I'm gonna bring that up. There isn't as much juice around this Kyle Larson thing. Perhaps having him roll off in 21st or some isn't adding to it. I looked at the weather. It seems like there might be a little bit of rain again this year. We were in the rain last year when they called it after 260 laps for Chris Bell, and Larson wasn't able to make it down. But do you guys feel that way? Is there something less magical about what Kyle is doing? And do you think if he gets mediocre results, just finishes both races, maybe competes for a win in Coca-Cola 600, but has a yeoman's performance in Indy 500? You think it's one of those things that he just won't do again?
I think they're kind of doing what I kind of said they should, not said they should do, but last year I was very upset about how much NASCAR was promoting the fact that he was doing the double, and then the fact that they were punishing him after they made it such a big deal. And I guess I got what I wished for. They're just not really promoting the fact that he's doing it that much this year.
I mean, do you see that, Moon, too? Do you see it's like one of those things?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the biography crew with him. Like he's got, this is being documented as if it's going to be in the next Netflix special. And I don't think there's a lot of juice for it this year, especially if his results are anything less than fantastic.
Yeah, I think last year's still kind of hurting it. I think it was just such a kind of a dud last year with all the scheduling stuff and him not even getting to race the Coke 600. I think I don't know, something about it. I think too with the there's uncertainty with the weather Sunday too early in the day. So I don't know. I think a lot of people are more like worried about it. And it seems, I don't know, he doesn't seem as in it and about it. And even at Wilkesboro, I remember last year, I mean, it was like the president was coming to town when the helicopter was landing, and it was all over social media. And like this year I saw a picture of him in like street clothes walking in the place. And it didn't seem like, obviously people cared because it was Kyle Larson, but it wasn't like this big, oh, he's coming back from Indy to race the All-Star race. So I don't know why that is. I hope he runs good, but it definitely doesn't have the hype it did last year.
Spider, are you looking forward to it as much as you were last year?
Definitely was looking forward to it more last year, but I still going to be, interested in watching it this year. And I think, as I said previously, having him compete, I think is still good. Now, it's not getting as much attention as it was last year, but I think that's just because of the circumstances, the rain, the fact that kind of got derailed there as he was trying to make it happen. But I think as soon as he starts doing well, which I kind of expect him to do, there's going to be a large contingency of people, and he's going to be getting a lot of attention. People will naturally tune in, and I think it will end up being a bigger story than last year. And all I hope is that we don't have to talk about will he get a waiver, all this fucking bullshit that went along with last year's effort. So
I think they fixed that, which is good.
I think that would be kind of a black eye to do that whole song and dance 2 years in a row should similar circumstances transpire. But I'm rooting for him. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not overly concerned about where he's starting. I mean, as Moon had said, it did look like for whatever reason in the limited Indy car I've watched, there have been a lot of cars spinning. And I think the guy who won the pole for the Indy 500 is a guy who's never driven on an oval before, which is kind of a storyline in itself. But I'm going to be tuned in to watch and see how Larson can do cutting his way up through the field. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's, riding within the top 10 for a good portion of the day.
Do you think that there's any kind of juice to them going to the so we know from the Daytona 500, we've spoke to the winner the past couple of years, Ricky and Byron twice, and they take the car from him and they put it in Daytona Museum. So with somebody going in and checking out the attenuator and seeing that it had the same exact, modification, should they retroactively go after Newgarden? I mean, that would be like huge to have somebody's championship taken away from him almost a year later. Excuse me,
I feel like
a race. It's got to be a statute of limitations.
It's got to be, right? But
that just cheated. Can't happen.
Okay.
Got away with cheating.
Yeah, got away with cheating. And I guess that's the whole idea with motorsports in general. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. All right, let's go and talk to somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about. That's Jimmie Johnson. We're about to go 3-wide with Jimmie Johnson. It's brought to you by Game Time. They don't make it easy to buy concert tickets these days. You got to sign up for pre-sale, get in the queue. By the time you get through, the best seats are gone. Going to a concert should be about the show itself, not waiting in a virtual line. Lucky for me, I always use Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the app actually go down the closer it gets to showtime. I was looking for tickets for Pop Smoke the other day. Then someone reminded me that he was killed in 2020. So then I pivoted and I got some great tickets for the weekend for me and my daughter to go. What are you waiting for? I'm going to buy those weekend tickets right now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Rubbin for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Rubbin, RUBBIN, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it?
Game time.
Pop Smoke?
R.I.P.
Yeah, rip to Pop Smoke. All right, here's Jimmy. Hey, everybody. So as promised, we have Jimmie Johnson in the house. He's about to make his 700th career start, which means one of two things. The first thing, he's very good at what he does when he's behind the wheel. And two, he's as old as fuck, huh? 700 starts. Jimmy, when you started, was it one of those Fred Flintstone cars where you had to put your feet through the bottom and actually walk through? Or was the tech? How much different is the technology in the car from the first time Jimmie Johnson sat in one to the 700th time that Jimmie Johnson sat in one?
Yeah, it's changed a ton, but
Right.
you just made a Fred Flintstone reference, and so we've got to be similar in age. And
Yep.
I'm lost right now for what was Fred's racing name? You
Oh,
remember that?
God
Is there
damn
there
it.
was a bit of racing that took
Yeah.
place.
Fred
Oh, I
Flintstone,
just felt
yeah,
bad. Sorry.
I will get it up there. But
It was
yeah,
an incredible name. I'm trying to
yeah.
remember it.
Indian
Sorry.
Rockolis?
What is
I
it?
don't know. I just
No,
Googled
Fred
it.
Flintstone. And I feel like he dubbed as a race car driver on the side. There's another character that looked just like him. That
Oh,
it's a great
Goggles
name,
Paisano.
like
Goggles
There you
Paisano
go.
was the name, but Spider, you're not too far off because instead of the Indianapolis 500, it was the Indianapolis 500.
Rockless. There you go.
It was Goggles Paisano, who's another racer who I think Fred looked exactly like. I will tell you, who are we talking about? Who's Redneck Jesus again? That one guy.
Junior?
No, Bubba Pollard. I said Bubba Pollard. We were talking about Bubba Pollard, and I had said how he's kind of like a Fred Flintstone looking guy. Bubba does have that big face too, so he wound up putting his face onto a Fred Flintstone thing for a T-shirt. He like embraced the comparison and made a couple of bucks off it, which I love. But talk to me about that. Like a lot of people, talk about the Gen 7 car, and you've been through a couple of generations with this car. What is the main difference for you from when you had first started to now when you're jumping in?
Yeah, I mean, so much has changed. I mean, just the philosophy and the race itself, and it's all been dictated by the fans. And you can argue if you like the next gen car, you can argue if you like stage racing, you can argue if you like how the champion is now determined. But through a fan council and the digital era, NASCAR has made all of these decisions based on fan feedback and trying to go with the majority. And so it certainly has shifted it in many ways. And when I first started, it was Winston Cup, and the championship was an accumulation of 36 races. We had big horsepower cars, very little rules, just a different environment. Safety was nowhere where it is now. As I started in Xfinity racing, which was in probably 99, we did not have softer walls. We did not have Hans devices. Of course, 2001, with the fifth driver being Dale Earnhardt and his passing, what still blows me away is it wasn't only racing in NASCAR, but racing around the globe changed. Every form of racing that had a wall integrated softer wall technology. The head and neck device then became mandatory in all these different divisions, and some other modifications to the cockpit of the car and car design for crashing. And it was all done in collaboration across all series together and manufacturers, which still today, I don't know if we can get everybody to work together the same. And it all happened because of Dale's passing. So, the safety has increased, race format. There was a certain flow of race in my era when we didn't have stages. When stage racing came along, I think it hurt me. I'm not great at qualifying. And with stage racing, your race really starts in qualifying. The closer you are to the front, it's harder to pass these days. You just have a better race weekend. So there are many, many, many changes, but it's just everywhere.
Do you mind if I follow up with that real quick, Spider? Because we did have Dale and his sister, Kelly Earnhardt Miller, in last week to talk about this Earnhardt documentary that is dropping on Prime. And when you look back at that actual crash, it wasn't that spectacular of a crash. It was certainly, the what had happened from the crash was certainly spectacular in every sense of the word, but it wasn't a spectacular compared to some of the stuff that we've seen before that and after. But nonetheless, it had caused the death of an icon in the sport. If that didn't happen, when would that trigger have been pulled on the Hans of Ice and all these other things? Because did it take the death of an icon for people to fucking wake up? Or would we have went another 5-10 years before we woke up and started saving lives? Because no Cup driver has died on the track since Dale Earnhardt Sr. What would have it been?
Sadly, it would have been more time, and and who knows what would have happened. But and I'm not trying to cast blame anywhere. I start with myself. I had a Hans device sitting in my transporter since 98, 99, and I never wanted to wear it. It was clumsy. I didn't have the seatbelt geometry corrected, because it puts probably 3 inches of height. And so when you go to tighten your belts, man, it gets really uncomfortable on your traps, and it squishes you down in the seat in a weird way. And so I tried it once at a test session, and I thought, man, I don't need this. Nobody else is wearing it. I don't need it. Well, all it really took was to modify the seat belt brackets, raise that a few inches so that you have the right angle across the shoulder area with the Hans, and the thing's comfortable. You don't even know it's on. So, the technology was there, but I think in most sports, and especially when it comes to safety, there was an issue around liability, and I still think it's kind of there in some respects for school sports and such. But once you mandate something, that sanctioning body, that league, is then liable for any injuries that happen. And in our sport, in racing in general, nobody wanted to be liable. When I first started racing in NASCAR, it was suggested to wear a helmet. It was suggested to wear a fire suit, suggested to wear a seatbelt. Right. So, we had actually 4 other drivers die before Dale's. Tony Roper, Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin, and Blaze Alexander, all from the same style of crash and same injury. But with Dale, it was just different. And of course, it was on the piggyback or on the back of these other notable drivers all losing their lives. So it's wild. Safety is a tricky thing, and we're the problem. The athletes are the problem 90% of the time.
I want to move on to this weekend. 699 career starts so far, obviously making your 700th this weekend at the iconic Crown Jewel Coke 600. Out of the 699 that you've raced, is there one that's most memorable or you're most proud of?
I've always referred to the first, my first start, my first win, first championship. I fortunately had a very fortunate career in the sport, especially at the Cup level. But then there are other elements that took place at these tracks that didn't necessarily unfold on the racetrack, from forming relationships, best friends, met my wife. There are all these different elements that are in there. And so it's hard to pick one moment, but yeah, it's been a heck of a journey, to say the least.
So how about looking forward then? Why was it the Coke 600 that you decided to make your 700 start at? And is there any other opportunities upcoming that you have circled for in terms of your interest?
Yeah, it really is just luck that the 700th start ends up at Charlotte, in the track where I had my first start. I ran 9, I guess, last year. And then once we started planning for this year in the Daytona 500, we realized that 700 would be in Charlotte. I'm a numbers guy, but I literally have not been paying attention to this. It would have been amazing to plan to be done at 700 or some element of, but that's really not the case. I hope that I can get in the car a few more times this year if circumstances present themselves. And then next year, in our evolution into a third car here at Legacy Motor Club, there's an option there where I could help build the team. And so we're looking at that as one of the many options, which would then put me in the car, a fair amount next year.
Got it. So in terms of that third charter for next year, you think it will be more a younger driver that you can kind of help cut their teeth and bring them up to the Cup level, or are you eyeing for someone that has kind of a veteran presence for your team?
It is so hard to have the crystal ball and see what's best for the organization. And we're a young organization, so in some respects, I think the more veteran driver we could bring on, especially bounding and putting together a new team, would be quite useful. But it's still early days. We're not sure about the third charter. We are still working through a lot of details there. But man, I'm excited for the expansion if and when that opportunity comes. And one takeaway I do have from this is my last year of full-time driving was in 2020, and the driver landscape then and how the manufacturers and also the teams would put drivers under contract has changed quite a bit. There are very few long-term contracts back in my day, and now you have these contracts where the manufacturers have drivers under long contracts because they bring them into a development system and help control where they go. And then teams kind of put an offer in and lock up a guy well before they intend to run him. And so I am now learning just how complicated it is. And in many scenarios, it involves a buyout, and it's not just a buyout of the team, but you also have this manufacturer piece. So it's early days, and we're not at a place to make any moves yet, but understanding the landscape has been quite informative.
A lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, a couple teams rather, have seemingly invested in new charters and tried to grow their team and add new drivers, a third car maybe. And there has been some criticism in regards to NASCAR's willingness to help them grow and expand and invest in their sport. What has your position been growing legacy from that perspective, adding a new charter and such?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. I think based on scale, if you can find an affordable charter and get to maximum scaling, you stand a better chance to raise revenue, to at least compete and be on par with the bigger teams. The smaller the team, the less paint you have to sell, the less people you have in your building, the less resources you can deploy. And so getting to that max scaling is important, and that's certainly our strategy and behind it. It's all a timing thing at this point, but we would love to have that opportunity to expand.
What's the long-term thought process behind that? I mean, people talk about how NASCAR is top heavy and you're only going to see champions from, one of the big three. How do you change that to the big four? What's the timeline on that? I mean, that's what everybody wants to do, whether it's Legacy or Spire or anybody else. Is there something distinct where you're like, I think in 5 years, we can have a point where we're making a run at the big guys? It's something that happens quicker, all the while trying to win races with the team that you have in place.
Yeah, there's been a lot of effort put into this. When you look at a spec car, you look at a lot of the costs are being softly controlled, and the fact that we buy parts through a single source supplier, there's a certain car count that each car number can have on their shop floor at any point in time. And so there are there's parity really being brought in more and more and more. And it's also in conjunction with trying to bring down the expenses. And as you do that, I think you open the bandwidth for others to compete. And I'm certainly buying into that. And I'm into this to build a race winning and championship contending and winning organization. Where this sport was pre-charter system, man, I couldn't do it. It was just way too rich to do it. So there are various variables in play here that are helping this. But it is interesting, these big teams, they're just good. And it's tough to really crack that. And as we saw when this new car came into play, we had quite a few new winners, and there was a great shakeup. As time goes on, the big teams are just able to refine at a faster rate than the smaller teams. And I don't know how you fix that or if you need to. When you look across motorsports and you think about performance, you're kind of defeating the purpose in some ways if you completely neuter all that stuff. People need a place to work.
I want to ask your opinion on All-Star Weekend. The last couple of years we've been at North Wilkesboro Speedway. I thought we had a great race there this weekend. How does the All-Star race now compare to, maybe when you were full-time driving in the Cup Series? And do you think there should be a points race at North Wilkesboro Speedway?
And if you like racing, that was a heck of a show. That was damn good. When I was in the All-Star event, it was at a different time, and fandom and interest in analog events was higher than ever. The advent of the phone and digital and all these other elements, there's been a decay in some respects. But it's been great to see our viewership numbers rise, although in some markets the attendance has shifted and changed. So with that, when I first started, the All-Star event at a 1.5-mile track at Charlotte Motor Speedway was a packed house and a unique energy. And that started to fade, just changed for a lot of different reasons. There was excitement and energy at North Wilkesboro this last weekend, and that was a tremendous race. So I commend NASCAR for staying flexible. I also commend the two major ownership groups with NASCAR and SMI. Now that they've taken their companies back private, it's allowed them to invest into a North Wilkesboro. It's allowed NASCAR to go to Chicago and have a street race. We're going to Mexico City now. We're going to Austin, and that couldn't happen before because they were publicly traded companies, and there was just a lot of elements to that. So, the sport of NASCAR is strong. It's healthy. We can all bitch and complain and want more for this or more for that, and we all sit across the table from each other fighting for it. But it's trending in a very positive way.
And how about? Is there another track that you think should be revitalized next that got the North Wilkesboro treatment that we kind of, brought back into the spotlight? Is there a deserving track that you have in mind outside of that?
That's a good question. I was happy to see Rockingham on the schedule, to have that Xfinity race there. As a driver and a track that demands precision on a track that's so old and just chews up tires and very interesting banking from one end of the track to the other. I love that track. It was one of my favorite places to drive. So I would put that one probably at the top of the list.
What about West Coast? I mean, being a California guy, it's important that we get the series out there, and obviously as tracks are going under construction and we're moving stuff around. But are there places in California that think would be extremely open to having Cup Series come there? You think it would be very much worthwhile for the series to do such a thing? Because a lot of times when we do bring them into places like Bowman Gray or North Wilkesboro, we're going into a place that always has steep Southern traditions in NASCAR. Like how important is it to get it out to those blonde-haired, blue-eyed, gorgeous people who just got through surfing under perfect fucking weather in San Diego and now are eating great fish tacos?
I grew up there, man. You nailed that
Damn
very
right.
well.
Yeah.
It is important. And the biggest problem we have, though, is these tracks keep getting, dozed over, and they become, shopping centers and housing projects and all that. So I totally agree with you. I just don't know what's standing and what's left. I mean, I think maybe Irwindale is that gone now? I don't even know if that's still around.
That's crazy, right? So
Yeah.
Inside the shop right now, I mean, you're doing this interview from Legacy. How are the boys? Like we've had the absolute pleasure of having Eric on this show a couple of times. Probably one of the greatest people that you'll ever meet in your life, and a hell of a wheelman. John Hunter is having a very good season. Right? I mean, he's having how are the guys doing, and how are you interacting with them throughout the process? Where Eric, you're probably saying, hey, let's stay patient. You've shown a lot of brilliance, at times during races. John, doing very well. Let's see where we can take you to the next level. How's that been going with you and the boys?
It's been going well. I think we've had a massive uptick in performance from 24 to 25. And a lot of that comes from the commitment that my former partner, Maury Gallagher, put into the team towards the end of last year. And so we got off to a nice start. There was a transition to where I moved into control of the company in late January and trying to get our arms around our new partners that came in with Nighthead and the season kicking off. We got off to a good start and kind of dipped a bit and have now had a resurgence and really seem to be unloading with a lot of speed in the cars and much more competitive. So to your point about Eric being patient, he has been here for maybe 5 years, and came on when it was Petty, then Petty GMS, and now Legacy. And we know the superstar that he is and appreciate his patience. And I feel as this year wears on and we roll into next year, we'll give him more chances to win. I thought he could have won the Texas race earlier this year. So we're getting there. And John Hunter is just continuing to hone his craft. And, with John Hunter last year, our cars had less potential. And in the Xfinity series with the old style vehicle, a driver can make up for the car and you can actually slide the car. And a lot of us really enjoy a car that you can drift. the next gen vehicle and the aerodynamic properties of it, you cannot slide the car. You actually have to drive the car where the front end leads first and create speed. And so last year, I think John Hunter was trying to put the car on his back, and it just wasn't there. And this year, he's done a very good job of just taking the car to its potential, minimizing mistakes, and getting the best that he can. And he's doing a nice job. We've got to clean things up as an organization. We had a car that was light and got a car bounced out. That was with Eric, and he lost a lot of crucial points in that particular race at Martinsville. So we're a small and growing organization, and we're young, especially now with my leadership here. So I know we're 3 years old, but it's really kind of a new starting point for us, and I'm thrilled to see our progress.
As a guy who's raced in both IndyCar and NASCAR, what can you say about this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, historically one of the greatest weekends in racing? And is there any advice you'd give to Kyle Larson as he attempts the double?
Man, greatest weekend in motorsports, as you said. Kyle's doing an amazing job. Last year went really well for him. I know that weather, played a role and kind of complicated his day. I know this year's been a bit more challenging for him. I've talked to him a few times, and his excitement to do the double and to be in and around, both garage areas and the experiences, it's amazing to see. During my generation of drivers, the thing to do was to stay focused and really just drive one car. Now it's shifted, and it's drive anything and everything you can. And there's nobody better at doing that than Kyle. So I will be cheering for him and rooting for him. I'll actually be up there Saturday. I have a chance to drive the 2-seat vehicle and lead the field to the green. And Tom Brady's going to trust me driving him. He's going to sit in the back seat. He's asked me not to get him sick, so I'm going to swerve a bunch and try to create some motion sickness issues for him. But it's just a cool weekend, man. I'm pumped up for it.
I don't know what it is, Jimmy, and maybe you can explain it. Maybe because I'm so fucking old. I don't think they should be doing all this wacky shit. Like seeing what Tony Stewart's doing now, he might win like a hot rod, drag racing type thing. It's cool and all that stuff, but I don't know. What made that change to where the place that pays you, the Cup Series, NASCAR Cup Series, isn't the only option for you? Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I like. And it goes over to other sports. Boxers who are the greatest middleweights in the world, but they will also want to try and capture straps above and below their weight class where they're not that comfortable. Makes no sense to me. Be the best middleweight for your whole career. Is that an archaic way of thinking?
No, you're not wrong. I'll shed some light from an environmental from the driver's environment. I guess it's environmental.
Yeah.
When I was racing and the focus was just one car, at certain stages of it, there was unlimited testing. And one particular year, we had 22 test sessions, 2-day test sessions in between the 38 races. So I was able to get all the seat time that I wanted, and it was pretty easy to stay focused. Now, the way the rules read in NASCAR, there are 3 manufacturer tests a year. The manufacturer picks who goes to the track. So in Chevy for Kyle Larson, they're going to give a test to Hendrick, a test to Childress, and a test to probably Trackhouse. So then within that, Kyle's got 3 teammates. Which driver are they going to pick? You get 25 minutes of practice at the track, and then you qualify, and then you race. How do you get better? How do you hone your craft? And so now it's shifted to where, wow, you don't get much seat time. You need seat time. You need, and whatever it might be. Some would argue that, hey, you need to drive a vehicle that's like a Cup car. It's hard to find one. There's really not many out there. Mm-hmm. But Larson has had this love of so many other cars and this experience driving anything that he's like, all right, well, if I'm not getting seat time in the Cup car, I'm going to lean into this other that I do. And thankfully, Jeff Gordon, Rick Hendrick, who's always been pretty cautious about letting his drivers be in other cars, but Rick's raced and knows you got to stay sharp. And the only way you do that is by being in a car. So that's kind of the shift right now we're seeing.
Yeah.
What's your position on that? Would you allow your drivers to compete in Indy 500 or other forms of racing? Should they be given the opportunity?
Man, I hate you're putting me on a spot.
Yeah, because they're gonna come back to this too. By the way, remember when you said I could do this, Jimmy?
Very true. I want them to chase their dreams. And I know I had a chance to do the double years ago, and it fell apart. I was still a full-time Cup driver and at a peak of my career. Had a chance to go drive for Penske and didn't get the approval. It wasn't necessarily a Hendrick thing, but Chevy wasn't in Indy at the time, and it just didn't play out for me. So I want to believe that I would allow my guys to go do it.
We were speaking earlier in the show about the Monday morning quarterbacks for driving. So who had the most regret after the All-Star race? Was Ryan Preece saying, maybe I shouldn't have grabbed that cone since everybody else kind of knew where everything was. I just didn't see it. Joey Logano has dialed back some of the stuff that he said about Chris Bell immediately following the race. Michael Waltrip, they think they're going to put a bungee cord on the flag if he's ever up there again so he doesn't drop it. So there are certain, but now a guy like you has been through it all and seen most of it. Is there something that we should give these guys? It's almost like we have too much access. Every time I get, rear-ended or cut off in the car, I'm a different fucking person. So imagine getting somebody when they just get out of their car, they're going 500 miles saying, Chris Bell is the most evil guy in the world. It's almost like you can't take their word for it. Were you always able to kind of keep your head? Is that something that you're going to say, by the way, John, if this happens to you, please don't embarrass yourself and the company afterwards by saying something that you don't mean. Please don't, pick up a cone when everybody else had seen it, like that type of thing. How do you control emotions yourself? And do you have to control the emotions of your own drivers?
Yeah, I mean, we have some expectations, but I don't think they're unrealistic or unfair. I don't think they're unrealistic or unfair.
Okay.
I want our guys to be themselves, and I was never told to be a certain way, and I was allowed to exist in an environment where I could thrive and be me. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea. That's fine. I love watching a train wreck. I don't want to be in the train wreck. So
Right.
all these entertaining drivers, the fighting, the whatever happens, man, it's entertaining. So again, I want my drivers to be the best they can be in the car. And if they're an outspoken guy, do it. But if you're not an outspoken guy and you start running your mouth, I know that it's going to work against you. Like, that's not your true self. And that's really my guidelines within, there's some things you just can't do.
Earlier this year, NASCAR announced that they would be moving the site of the championship race from Phoenix to Miami. Where do you stand on that? Do you have a preference in either of those tracks? And how do you think things will change as we visit Miami next year for the championship?
Yeah, I think moving the championship race around is a good idea. Whenever you come to a new market and have such a moment taking place, you get a lot of interest and people want to come see it. So I think that's a good move. I clearly am very biased for Homestead. I've had so much success down there and won all 7 of my championships there. The
No big
racing
deal.
there. Yeah,
No big deal, Spider. Yeah. How do you feel about Miami, Jimmy? I don't know. I won 7 championships there. Holy shit.
Watching North Wilkesboro, that was a damn good show. I mean, I think that's what people want to have for a championship race. I think Phoenix is moving into a place, the track is aged, getting quite racy. So I think moving's great. We'll just have to see how the racing takes place. I mean, there's a balance of, do you go to a road course where people can just slam each other and spin each other out and dump each other at will and have a championship determined that way, or a short track? There's a lot can happen there. Or do you want guys strung out where the best car wins and the best team performs? It's hard to pick one, so I do like the idea of moving it around.
So follow up, if you could add one into consideration for the championship, in addition to Phoenix, Miami, what would be the third one that you consider for a championship? And then give me one absolutely no shot the championship should ever occur on this track.
I think that a super speedway race would be the one it shouldn't happen at.
Okay.
There's just so much outside of a driver's control. So that's the racer in me that says, man, you're in the draft, the leader's wreck, you get caught up in it. Like, I would hate to see that determine the championship. I think it being at a cutoff race is kind of as far as you want to push that. So that would be that one. It's funny, I was at a NASCAR meeting today and they shared more about this and asked for suggestions of other tracks that could be considered, as they think about the future. And I started thinking about it some. I didn't get too far down the road, but when I think about Kansas and how racy that mile and a half is, that's one that came to mind quickly. We seem to have really good finishes there. So maybe that's it for now, but I need to do some more thinking about it.
All right, well, Jimmie, we're going to wrap up if that's okay. But before we do, I'd like you to do our job for us. We are the podcast for people just getting into NASCAR. We are. We constantly bring people to the track for the first time. It's kind of the thing that we do, trying to bring in a new set of eyes on the sport. For people who are going to be watching the Coke 600 for the first time, and partially because it's going to be your 700th start, which is, again, just fucking crazy. If they can find it on Amazon Prime, that's going to be the first hurdle. What do you think people should watch out for? What is typical of a Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte for you that people should be pumped to see and look out for?
Yeah, I think our pre-race ceremony and the respect that our sport teams, drivers, sponsors, everyone shows for the armed services and that day and the meaning of the day is quite special. We'll have fallen soldiers on all the cars, and their families will be there. And I think we do a really nice job of showing that respect. In the race itself, it's our longest event. It's a marathon. The thinking about the challenges of the track changing, the driver's fitness and fatigue, the crew, over the wall changing tires. There's a lot of athleticism. This is really a focal point for that. But from a viewing standpoint, I would suggest jumping on the NASCAR app and going to the in-car cameras. TV does an amazing job, but it's so nice to have that perspective from inside the car and bounce around. And if you watch and listen, you can see differences in how the drivers are driving the cars. And from where they let off to the throttle input, you can even see the brake channel that's on there. And you can start understanding the game that the teams are fighting and dealing with. And then you come down pit road and work on it and try to make it better. So that would just be a deeper layer to get into.
I love it. Jimmie, thank you so much for spending time with us again. You've always been extremely gracious. We're huge fans because you're a legend. This is Jimmie Johnson, Legacy Motor Club, and you're going to catch him this week competing for a win in his 700th start at the Coca-Cola 600. Thank you so much, Jimmie. Have a great time. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Okay, baby. That was perfect. Jimmie, anything you think you need cut out of that?
No.
No, it's pretty much down the middle, right?
Yeah, totally.
Are you going to Mexico City?
No, I won't make Mexico City.
Okay, we're going to tear it up in Mexico City.
Were you bummed?
I love that area. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We've never been. Large and I are looking forward to getting there. Wait. Were you bummed that Auto Club got torn down?
Yeah, I mean, so much history there. And I think for a 2-mile track, as it got older, it was awesome. Way more competitive and fun to watch. So it's prime real estate, man.
Yeah, I guess so. I wasn't sure if that's what you were alluding to when you said like shopping centers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there was one before that that was bowled over in the mid 80s called Riverside Speedway. There's also another one called Ontario Speedway. California is just growing so fast and all that stuff that those tracks disappear.
Yeah, here.
Well, we really appreciate your time.
Cool, guys. Appreciate it.
We're hoping to have John Hunter in the office soon too, but good to have the boss ahead of his appearance. So thank you very much.
Give my best to the boys.
Yep. Be well.
Good weekend.
See ya.
Good luck.
Bye.
All right. So that was Jimmie Johnson doing what Jimmie Johnson does. The guy is a cool customer, right? Cool cucumber of a customer. Handsome as all get out. I didn't bring it up, but the last time Spider and I saw Jimmie live, it was at Daytona when he was locked out of his bus. Mere minutes before he was supposed to be on the grid to jump in the car, he had to go and get like a backup fire suit somewhere else. Guy never broke a sweat, and I guess it's because he was about to go 200 miles, 3 inches off of a wall on a track. So always a pleasure to have him on, and we appreciate his time. Impressive guy, right, Spider?
He's awesome.
Got to talk to, yeah.
Awesome. Always good to be in legend in the company of the legends, and I feel like that's all we've done recently. So very fortunate to have him on the show.
We can't keep this going. Like, who else are we going to get?
Yeah, it's a tough. I mean, I had an idea, but then you started kind of clowning him, so I'm not sure. I was going to say Michael Waltrip would have been a good one, but
that's going to be tough.
That's going to be a tough ask now. Chipper Jones out. I don't know. I have to go back to the drawing board.
Danica out. Did you see? And I don't know if you guys, but if you noticed last week when I'm doing the Earnhardt siblings, Kelly had said something about Danica, and I just kept my mouth shut. I don't want to say that I've been
Credit
on
to
record
you.
calling her cunt many times.
You know who would be? I was talking to Spider about this the other day, which I don't know if you're aware of this or not. But Brian Vickers, and like he just divorced his wife, and his wife was
An assistant for Epstein.
she was a handler for Epstein, and a big part of that. And that would be if he's talking about that stuff, which he kind of said that he was going to in a notes app thing. That would be an interview.
I'm not sure I'm qualified for that interview, nor that he would give us the platform to do it, but that definitely does sound interesting. Brian Vickers, if you're listening, come on.
Yeah, I'll put in the request. Get Brian Vickers on here.
And, only if he'll talk about I guess there's probably enough interesting stuff with Brian Vickers.
Yeah. Let's go to Charlotte. Jimmie already helped us out by telling you guys what to expect. But Charlotte, and this preview is brought to you by Amazon Prime. NASCAR on Prime kicks off this Memorial Day weekend with one of the crown jewels of racing, the Coca-Cola 600. 600 miles, 400 laps. This is where legends are made and heroes are honored. And for the first time ever, you can stream it on Prime. See what it takes to finish first. Don't miss the Coca-Cola 600 Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern. NASCAR, it's on Prime. And for those people who don't have Amazon Prime, I believe they're doing like a 30-day free trial. So if you sign up for it, you can watch the Dale documentary. They have 5 weeks of racing. You wouldn't be able to make it, I guess, that 5th week with the 30-day trial, but at least you can have an idea of whether or not you'd want to re-sign up for it. So no
Prime's
excuses. Make sure you watch this. What's that?
Prime's the best thing ever.
It is.
Yeah.
I have my yearly thing, and I've never considered getting rid of it.
Yeah.
You're talking about from a buying perspective or like watching or both?
Both.
Yeah.
You get both with it.
No,
but
it's great. Like I said, I'm moving. Everything I ordered on Prime is just like coming.
I would have both
two.
services separately.
Yeah.
I would get the shipping aspect of it for that purpose, and then I would get the video aspect, and it's all just in one.
Yeah, my wife watches Reacher just on a loop with the sound off. And so thank you to Prime for that. It takes a lot of pressure off of me. But we got a triple header in Charlotte this week. A handful of drivers not named Kyle Larson doing double duty. Trucks have the NC Education Lottery 200 on Friday at 8:30 on FS1. BJ McLeod will be in the 07 and Kyle Busch in the 7, both for Spire, and Ross Chastain will wheel the 44. Xfinity has the Bet MGM 300 on Saturday at 4:30 on the CW. Austin Dillon will wheel the 3 for RCR. William Byron will be in the 17 for Henrik. Chase Briscoe will pilot the 19 for Joe Gibbs. And Catherine Legg is back. She'll be in the 32 for something called Elf and Jordan Anderson. And then the Coca-Cola 600 starts Sunday at 6 p.m. on Prime, as I had said. It's the longest race of the season, most stage points of any race because of the added stages. So those 400 laps, we got a stage break at 100, 200, 300 laps, and then the checkered at lap 400. I believe after that second stage, that's where they cut the engines to do a moment of silence for our fallen heroes. And it is absolutely beautiful to be there in person for and also to watch on TV. So make sure you tune in. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will join the military representatives from U.S. Army, Marine Corps, Navy to serve as Grand Marshals. As I mentioned above, Connor Zilich will be in the 87 for Trackhouse, and Chris Bell is the defending champion of this race, having won the race after his called on lap 249 last year. So big weekend for us all. Oh, I didn't mention it. In last week's race, the All-Star race, instead of flyover with the Jets, see they brought out those 2 fucking choppers?
They did a great job.
That was awesome.
I also love how when at North Wilkesboro, they introduced the whole pit crews. The teams get acknowledged on screen. They did a great job. I think Chase, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano all let their team walk out prior to them, and then they were last in line, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, put the team first kind of vibe.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. I'd noticed that, and they brought the kids out with them too.
Yep.
You know, and you could tell some people didn't throw out enough hats.
Some people were light on the merch for sure.
Some people were light. I don't want to name names, but some people were a little bit light on the merch. Maybe tighten that up, RCR. It was one of those where some people were like, yeah, give away as much shit as you can. But it was pretty. And then when those helicopters, I looked it up. I think they're called Super Stallion choppers, which is a cool name. They had those bay doors down in the back, like where Tom Cruise would normally jump out without a parachute. And like dudes just hanging out on that back bay holding American flags. It's just very fucking cool. So expect more of that stuff. Expect more Freedom Hard-Ons when you watch the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend on Amazon Prime. Let's pick some winners. brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA Finals are almost here. Every play could be the one that changes everything. This is the NBA playoffs where heroes rise, legacies are built, and the action never lets up. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, you just don't watch the madness, you live it. Back your favorite team, ride with your clutch time killer, bet on buzzer beaters, the breakout performances, the game-winning threes, from player props to same-game parlays. This is how you take your fandom to the next level. New to the game? No sweat. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll score $300 in bonus bets. It's that easy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Rubbin. That's code Rubbin for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. That's a little bit different than what we're doing. You bet $5, you win, you get $300 in bonus bets on top of your winnings. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Who's got them? Who's got the winners this week on picking the tires?
I got them.
Go ahead, Quigs. You go first.
Hit us, Quigs. I got
2
'em.
guys just straight up winning. We'll go with my more favorite of a guy, William Byron. He's raced here really well. I could see him just coming out and dominating. And then this guy has been, he gets me now every week. So I'm like, he's going to win. And his odds are really good because he hasn't been great. But
Are they 25-1 by chance?
they are 25-1.
Uh-oh.
And it's Brad K.
Brad K.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's historically pretty good here. And he looked good in All-Star race until bad things happened. But those are my picks. And one
Just
of those
2
guys
straight
will
up
win.
winners, William Byron and Brad K. Nothing sort of.
Yep. No, nothing
I
fancy.
like that. Going back to your roots.
Yep.
I'll go last. Spider, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. I'm going to take Tyler Reddick plus 750, a guy who hasn't had the season we needed him to have so far. And I think he rights the ship with a win here. 750, I think, is a fair price for him. And yeah, I'm intrigued by that. And then another guy I'm going to take that's also looking for a win is Ryan Blaney, 8-1. I want money on that body armor car this weekend. I think it looks badass, and I could very much see it in victory lane. I'm not going to guarantee him a win like you did in Atlanta and mushed him.
Oh, man, I fucked him.
So we'll see what happens. But I like Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick. Reddick 7.5-1. Blaney is 8-1. So hopefully those. Outside of that, I think there's some pretty good value in this race deep on the board. Joey Logano's been running great. He's 18-1. You got guys like Josh Berry was honestly the guy I thought you were going to say at 25-1, which is a little intriguing to me.
No, I'd take Brad K over Josh Berry.
I would not touch Brad K, but I mean, then again, I took 2 guys who have been kind of having tough luck as well. So yeah, those are the guys I'm rocking with, Reddick and Blaney, and then maybe I'll take Joey for a top 10. DraftKings does not have the top 10 odds up yet. It is early Wednesday, so I'm sure that'll be coming. But for now, Reddick and Blaney outright are my picks.
What do you got, Moonhead? Anything that jumps out at you?
Yeah, I like the 2 winner strategy, so I'm gonna go with Christopher Bell. And then Spider's exactly right. Going down here, there's a lot of them sticking out to me, like Barry, like Logano, but I like Bubba down there. I know he hasn't won in a while, but I don't know. I feel like he's turning around, kind of having a quietly
cool
good year. So
I don't mind that.
Yeah, I like Bubba and I like Bell.
I like the Byron pick by Quiggs. I don't like him to win, but he's plus 300 to be the top Chevrolet, just because all eyes are on Kyle Larson. So basically, Kyle Larson's the only guy who's got to beat there. So I'm going to take William Byron as the top Chevy, plus 300. My chalky pick is going to be Denny Hamlin to win the race. And then the little bit more of a long shot is the guy that you guys all mentioned, but nobody wants to touch. I will take Josh Berry at plus 2,500 to win. So Denny to win, Josh Berry to win, and William Byron is the top Chevy at plus 300 or so. With that, that's what we got. Again, I'll be down in Charlotte for a couple of days. If you guys see me, wave me down. And if not, we will see you next time on Rubbin' Racing.
Peace.
Peace.